Well, hello. I am Kyle Chambers with Texas Quality Assurance, and today we're going to talk about QMS software. Specifically, let's talk about software that doesn't suck the life, the resources, the cash, the time from your business. Investing in a software like a quality management system, QMS software, the goal is to save time, to save energy for what matters most. And that is the heart, the genesis, the start of everything we do at Texas Quality Assurance. So for those you don't know, I'll give you a brief history on our company, on myself, how we got to where we are, and why we're talking about QMS software today. So I started my career actually in IT. I went from working for a hospital doing sysadmin, help desk type work to working for a small business, getting their computer systems set up and running. Had a little bit of AutoCAD experience, so I did a lot of the original drawings and so forth there. And pretty quickly, I worked myself out of a job. And I realized this, and I had a family to take care of, and that's a bad spot to be in when you've got a baby at home and you realize you just worked yourself out of a job. So I started poking and prodding around, and I wanted to see what else I could do to add value to the company, and I wasn't getting anywhere. But then one day they said, "Kyle, we really need someone to run a safety program for us." Oh, safety, that's totally different from anything I've done before, but it sounded like a lot of fun. So I jumped on board and jumped in with both feet. This may sound eerily similar to how a number of you guys got into this quality management and compliance management world. So I'm doing safety, and that very quickly turns into environmental, which bleeds over into quality and inventory. And, then dealing with safety, we're dealing with some insurance issues. And before I knew it, I was in over my head. I went from having nothing to do to 6 months later, I'm working 60, 70 hours a week. And it only got worse. It was exciting, but stressful and very difficult. So at one point, not long after this, management came to me and they said, "Hey, Kyle, what do you think about getting this ISO certified?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's the direction we need to go. That's what we need to do for this business." I'm like, "Man, there's so many doors this is going to open up for you guys from the sales perspective." And like, "Yeah, Kyle, we know this." And turns out they'd made a deal with what was soon to be one of their biggest customers to get ISO 9001 quality management standard, right? To get what used to be called OSAS 18002, although I guess it's still a standard, but no one really gets certified to it. And that's a health and safety standard. Our more modern versions are ISO 45001 for occupational health and safety. And they wanted to go for ISO 14001 as well for environmental management. Well, let me tell you, thought that'd be a lot of fun until they told me I had less than a year to get it done. And, I was young, naive, go-getter, starting my career. So I said, "We'll do it." Now, without hesitation. Didn't realize that would mean 80-hour weeks would become the norm. And there's just no two ways around it. That's not sustainable. You can't work 80-hour weeks, nor should you work 80-hour weeks. It'll suck the life out of you. And that's what was happening to me. Well, we had an ERP at the time, and it had some quality modules and some document control modules, but in the end, using these modules cost more time, more effort, more energy than it gave. And I'm like, this is so pointless. This is fruitless. Why am I doing extra work on a tool that makes me do extra work that's supposed to save me time? It made no sense. So I said, there's got to be a better way. There absolutely has to be a better way. And so I decided to put the IT skills back to use. And again, this is back in, between 2010, 2012. And so there's got to be a better way. So started developing some tools with free resources we had at hand. And what do you know? It worked. That first week, man, I was able to go from 80-hour work week to 60. That's something. And we were able to continually improve and make it better. And that was the genesis of what is now TQA Cloud with Texas Quality Assurance. So that was really kind of the light bulb moment that, man, there really is a better way to do it. And kind of the old mantra of build it yourself. Well, I said, that's what we're going to do. So that was the genesis of TQA Cloud. And since then, we have made so many amazing changes and updates. Everything operates these days from the cloud. When we first started selling software in 2013, I was building servers on our dining room table. So long way from building servers on the dining room table. Today, we're fully operating within Microsoft 365. We operate on top of what they call the Power Platform. So it's really, really amazing tool. So let me show you a little bit about that tool today. So let's go ahead and adjust this here. All right. So this is TQA Cloud. TQA Cloud is an online quality management software solution. We provide this as a software as a service option, though we do have the option for a local deployment. That local deployment is under what we call our buy-up program, and we can talk about that more a little bit later. But let's talk about the modules within TQA Cloud and how they help you save time and energy rather than sucking it from your system. So we've got document control, and I have a lot of fun talking about document control. This is one of the areas that you're going to waste a ton of time otherwise. So how many of you have had the issue where you have your source document? This is our original. Maybe it's a Word document or something like that. But we're working on it. We're making drafts, we're making changes, and it's not final. We don't want anyone on the floor to get a copy of this working document. It'd be terrible. Okay, well, then you finalize it and you go through a review process, and we still have, work with folks that still physically sign the document and file it away as proof that we approve this version, and then they PDF it. So now you have your working document library, your signed physical copy, your PDF copy for the world to see. But then when you revise it, now you have to move that PDF copy over here into an archive location to keep. So like, my gosh, we're keeping this one document in 4 or 5 places. And then maybe you're still sticking it in a binder in the shop because you just don't have a good way to share it with folks. So, oh my gosh, I'm just getting a headache thinking about it because I have lived there before and it's miserable. And we work with folks regularly who are still living there, and we see the pain and frustration it causes. So, document control. Huge. You're going to love it. We'll dig into it a little bit deeper here in a few minutes. All right, so let's go back to the screen here. QMS Management. All right, this is a fun one. So we'll talk about this just briefly here. And I'm going to come back and go through some details and things in a moment. But we've got our non-conformance reports, our corrective preventative actions, calibrations, approved supplier, and audit management. So these are all of these records that we're working on a regular basis, day to day, week to week. So there's really a lot here that we need to focus on. So for small business, mid-size oftentimes as well. So we're talking about less than 1,000 employees, definitely folks less than 250 employees, is monitoring and measuring of the management system is tough. How do you show all of these metrics and data, prove you're monitoring your system? We argue quite strongly that our non-conformance report is our single best tool for a lot of these monitoring and measuring activities. We can track it by different defect codes, by different disposition codes. You can really begin to sort and filter that data and really, really do a lot to make some improvements in your system. So that's a big one we focus on. Corrective actions is another one that gets very, very difficult for folks. See, problem with corrective actions is these wind up taking an inordinate amount of time to close and complete. So our goal is to move you right along that process as quickly and smoothly as possible. Same thing with calibrations and maintenance. I mean, how many times have you had a finding for a missed piece of calibrated equipment? And, oh man, I didn't know it was there. I totally forgot about it. All these type of things happen. Or maybe you can't find the copy of the cert. You got the sticker, but you don't know where the cert is because it's in some drawer filed away. God only knows where, who had it. Okay. We're going to simplify all that. Same thing with supplier management and our audit management. I know personally, I have struggled greatly in the past with, where did I put that audit report? Well, dadgummit, where's it at? You run into these things. We're going to keep it all here. We're going to make sure the schedule is set up, and you can reference that audit in your corrective actions. It's going to go a long ways to help you out there. So let's go ahead and get the tool pulled back up. We're going to talk about competence and training. For those of you that haven't heard me talk about this before, this is probably my single favorite module of the system, competence and training, because when I was a safety manager, oh my gosh, I used to spend time on this. It is such a pain. So we're going to talk about competence and training, how to make this, instead of your most dreaded record-keeping activity, to the simplest and honestly most fun activity within the management system here. We'll talk about file shares. Look, we're never going to get away from it. You got to have somewhere to dump some data, let folks collaborate and work together. Hey, some of this may become some documented information up here. We'll go ahead and get that filed away later. Maybe not, but we'll take a look at it. So those are the basics of what we're looking at today. So I'm going to dive in and we'll discuss some of these and have a little bit of fun and go from there. So let me go ahead and get the screen brought back up. Let's talk about document control. All right, so document control. I made you the promise you're not going to have to keep stuff in 5 and 6 locations, right? We're going to be able to put it all in one location to operate and work from. So, and just so you know, since this is all cloud enabled, we're going to work just fine and dandy here on our smartphone, and we'll get that taken care of. But first, we've got, let me show you here. We've got how-to videos embedded in here. Something big that we're really working on doing is we want to make certain that we've got this information available for you. Also, you'll find here in the other section that we're going to have some additional how-to videos available for you as well. Now, I want to make note that we break everything here into process documents and technical documents. Key reason for that, we're going to find that in what we call our security portal over here. So in our security portal, we can assign who has access, who doesn't have access, what level of access they have, and so forth. And we break that up between process documents and technical documents. And let's think about it. Your process procedures, work instructions, we want these to be generally available to your employees. But let's be honest, a lot of times the secret sauce, our proprietary information, this is going to be in some of these external documents, inspection forms, drawings, and these external documents, you might have some licensing issues there. We want to keep those secure. So let's take a look at the security portal. Let's go ahead and look at my account here. We'll go ahead and open me up. And what you'll see here is that we have the option to toggle what access each individual user does and does not have. Oh, hang on a second here. Sorry, I forget. We've made a few changes with my admin account and some of our testing. So let me pull that up from here. We use my personal account as our guinea pig on the system here. So we'll go ahead and open this up real quick separately. But we can toggle access between, what each individual user does and doesn't have, whether they've got read-only, approve, edit, modify, you name it. We're going to make sure that it is all in here. All right. Sorry, this is the first time I've opened it up with this account in a while, so it takes a minute that first time to cache all the data. Especially here, we've got a lot of automations running in the background to keep everything secure. But what we can do is we can toggle these on and off. So technical documents, we're going to remove my ability on technical documents. There we go. I won't have the access to see, edit, approve, nothing of those if we click save there. So really cool how the automations on that work. But now let's take a look at one of these document libraries. First, let me go ahead and show you, tell you a little bit kind of about these document libraries and what we have and what we do with it. So there are a number of different document libraries in the system, and there's a good reason for it. So each of these document libraries is effectively identical to the next one. And the reason is what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be tracking different types of documents and like types of documents. So we're going to really try to keep all of those together. So here we have our policies and manuals. Now, with policies and manuals, it's just a sample, but we've got the exact same thing available here for our other forms and documents, job descriptions, work instructions, inspection docs, you name it. But let's take a look here. You see a lot of these documents are in a 0.1 or 0.2 version. This is that initial draft version. So you know how I mentioned, typically in a file structure, you've got your working documents over here. These are our working documents. Now, this document has been published for approval. That's why it's in this pending status right here. But if I were a read-only or an edit user, I would have absolute no idea that document existed. It would be hidden from me. You see this one here, that's version 14. Well, I can see that. I can see this version 1, but I can't see any of these other draft versions unless I have approved authorization within that document library. Now, let's take this document here. Let's say that I want to make a change to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and check out this document. So the document's checked out. That means that any changes that are made, I alone can see until I check it back in. Again, really great for working on the document. You don't have to download it locally and keep it away from everyone else because God forbid they see the ugly changes you're making until it's final. Now, once it's there, we can go ahead and open this up in the Word app. We can open it up in the browser. So we'll go ahead and open it up in the browser here. And you'll see that I've done this probably a few times. So we've got some kind of goofy notes in here, but we'll say, yes, another change. We'll type some notes in there. It automatically saves. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and close that document out. Now, I've made some changes to it. So what we're going to do now is let's say that I'm happy with these changes and I'm ready to get this approved for major version. So made some great changes, following up on NCR 1052, blah, blah, blah. All the additional details I would need in there for the person reviewing this document to know that we're reviewing. So it's checked in now. And it automatically elevated itself to pending. So let's go back a minute. Let's put ourselves in the perspective of the end user who does not have approved access. They will not see version 14.1. They will see the last approved version, version 14. So this is the current published major version. That's what everyone else is going to see. Otherwise, we have the full history here of our documents. You know how I said we're going to get rid of the old archive library? Everything is stored here in the document history, going all the way back more than a year now. So we've got everything that's ever occurred within that document. I'll show you one more thing that's a lot of fun. Is we've got this document. Whoops, I scrolled too far there. So we got this document here. And we have our required approvers. So each document, as you see, can have a different approval path. It's not required they all have the same approval path. So we'll open up that policies and manuals. And what we're going to see here is that we have the option for up to 4 required approvers. Once all of the required approvers that are entered, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, once they've all said, yes, approve the document, that document will automatically be elevated to the next approved version, and you're good to go. So in this case, we're just going to wait on Caleb there to approve the document. Once he hits approve, which, by the way, can be done entirely from your mobile device, from email, you're going to be good to go. So that's it. That's the basics of document control. We've got approval, we've got access, we've got version control. Even more, we can track all of these documents by multiple fields of metadata. So if you're on one of the TQA Cloud plans that includes premium support, we can add all of these different fields of metadata so you can sort and filter your documents. We've got clients that have hundreds of documents in the library that, man, they can sort through and snap of a finger, find the 1 or 2 that they're looking for with just a couple of filters. Even more so, we can pre-filter the documents in a view here. So if you know you get a certain filtered view on a regular basis, just save it as your own personal view and you're ready to go. So that's the basics document control. We make it simple. We make it easy. You're ready to go. No 2-week training course required to make it happen. All right. Let's talk about QMS Management. So QMS Management, one of my favorite tools is the nonconformance report. Nonconformance reporting, again, absolutely critical for a small business. You want to document each time something went wrong, and you don't want to take a lot of time doing it. You want to make it quick. You want to make it easy. So let's do that. Let's open up one of these NCRs here. So we'll just double click it. By the way, and I guess you know what I'm about to do here. This works wonderfully on a mobile device. So we'll take a look here. We've got our nonconformance report. Let's go ahead and edit it. We've got the date it was issued, responsible party, is this supplier related? We can pull from our list of approved suppliers, which we'll take a look at. Was the supplier notified? Yes, no. All the pertinent information we need down to our material information, if it's applicable. We can track our cost of poor quality, what was our supplier cost, man hours, you name it. It's all in here. Disposition, who's assigned to fix it, and how they, what disposition did they say? We have accept here, but maybe we said, you know what, we're going to scrap one of the two there. All right, so now we can keep record of all of that. We can add notes and attachments in here as well. So if we need to attach a picture, whatever the case may be, let's go ahead and attach the little banner for today. So we'll put that in there. And then we've got our evidence to support this corrective action. Oh, one thing I didn't show you here too. You see these comments? It's another really, really fun feature. So the comments here, what this allows us to do is communicate directly with one of our team members without ever having to exit the interface. We don't have to go to Outlook. We don't have to remember the number. We don't have to copy a hyperlink. Simply tag your team member in there. And what's going to happen is they're going to get an email with a link to this item and your comments in there. It just can't be any simpler or faster than that. But that's nonconformance reports in a nutshell. The only additional piece I might want to show you, and this is an option throughout the entirety of the system, is we can export to Excel. So say you're really needing to do some digging, some analyzing. Well, let's go ahead and export that out to Excel. And what it's going to do is it's going to create a one-way data connection all on its own so that your Excel spreadsheet is going to have all of the latest and greatest data. It can get an update from the system, but any changes you make here will not work their way back up. So feel free, have fun with the data here. Do whatever analysis you need to do. We can insert our charts and our graphs. We can insert pivot charts, you name it, whatever you need to do. We've got that option here. All of our data is easily exportable and manipulated. So we'll close that out. Nope, don't want to save it. And let's keep rolling. Corrective and preventative actions. These are different from nonconformance reports. We've done a few videos on the podcast and whatnot discussing it, so I'll spare you on that today. But let's go ahead and open up one of these corrective action reports here. All right. Corrective action report. Oh, no, I'm getting this big error. What's this mean? Well, it's saying that this is closed and can only be edited while open. So it's warning me. We've closed it out. We've signed off on it. Don't make any changes unless you absolutely intend to make changes. So we'll say proceed. And what we need to do is go ahead and save it in the open position and reopen it. We intentionally make it difficult to edit a closed corrective action. But we're not going to make any edits here. We're just going to take a look at it. So we have all the basic information. Is this corrective action, preventative action, improvement only? What are we looking at? What work area are we coming from? The date it was originated. We can go to our non-conformance, kind of that immediate containment phase. Was there a defect code associated with this? Really great for data analysis later on down the road. What's our immediate containment plan and details of that non-conformance? And what are we immediately doing about it? Here we said, you know what, we're just going to train some folks. And we also have this risk slider here. It's really fun. Not just because you get to move the buttons around, right? But the risk slider here, is effectively what you might use in an FMEA. Is we're going to identify our severity, our likelihood, our detection, and this works really well for integration with risk-based thinking, one of these really oddball, confusing terms in the standard, but it goes a long ways to show what was our pre-mitigation. And then after we do the root cause analysis and put our corrective measures in place, we can identify our post-mitigation risk. And this goes really, really well in helping to identify in your closeout, did we evaluate if this is effective or not? So we've got all of the critical pieces of a corrective action in here. But again, it is in a very simple, very easy to use, very easy to follow format. As always, we can leave our comments, our notes, and attachments. And that's it, guys. This is just as simple as it can be. Our goal in and out is to save you time and effort for what matters most in your business. All right, let's move through calibrated equipment. So calibrated equipment's a fun one as well. All right, in here, we have our calibration interval, the last date of calibration, our status, if it's active, retired, scrap, whatever the case may be. So this is going to let us keep up to date with all of these really, really easily. And we can set up notifications. So we're going to get an email notification when one of these is due soon. So let's go ahead and edit this item here. Pull up a nice little form. And we can identify what the last calibration date was, what its interval is. So it's going to tell us when it's due next. And we can attach copies of those certificates in here as well. So here we go. We've got that copy of our certificate in it, and we're ready to rock and roll. That's it, guys. That's as simple as it gets for calibration. You put the device in here, you put the schedule on it, you upload your data, it keeps you up to date, and we're done. There's no need to labor this any further. Suppliers operate very, very similarly. So for our suppliers here, now to be clear, we are not intending this to be your purchasing tool. You're still going to have your purchasing and accounting tools over there. But this is a way for us to record our quality critical suppliers that require approval. All right. So let's open up one of these fictitious suppliers here. And we've got all the basic information we need about them, the vendor name, our contact person. Did we conduct an audit recently? Now, this audit here is going to connect over to our audit management tool. So if you've got a supplier audit schedule, punch it in there. We can reference it. Helps keep everything traceable throughout the system. What's the status? They're pending approval, conditionally approved, you name it. We've got the option in there for you. You can attach attachments here, say perhaps a copy of your survey, if you do an annual survey, or the initial supplier approval information. But again, it is simply that simple. If you've got a re-review frequency, you can punch it in here. I recommend always having a re-review frequency on your suppliers. Now, it could be that you review them every year during your management review. There's ways to do that. Could be that maybe you do an audit once every 2 years, 3 years, something like that. But the key is that this is going to allow you to work with however your business operates. Our goal with TQA Cloud is to not force you to change the way you do business, but to enable you to be more efficient and more effective in how you run your business. All right, we've talked about the audit management tool a few times, so we'll go ahead and open it up right now. We probably need to have a few more test records in here for these demos, but this is good enough for now. So we'll go ahead and open up the one audit record that we have in here right now. So we'll get this. And again, you can have many of these in here. Your supplier audits, your internal audits, your external audits. Heck, you've got a customer audit coming up. Let's put all of that data here into the system and work it. Hang on a second here. All right. So we can identify our status. Does it need scheduling? Hey, look, we know we got an audit coming up, but we ain't scheduled nothing yet. But it needs scheduling. It's in process, completed. Maybe it's completed, but we've got a lot of corrective actions we need to take action on before we really close this out. Fantastic. It's going to give you a single tool dashboard where you can keep up to date with everything. How many findings did we have? How many OFIs, observations did we have? What's this internal, customer, certification, regulatory, you name it, we've got the option here for you. And you can put, again, all of the information, attach your files, your records. Is this associated with any NCRs or CARs? Get all of that data listed there, and we're ready to go. And now you've got a fully integrated audit management tool integrated throughout your system, from your suppliers, your non-conformance reports, corrective action reports. We're here. We're ready to go. All right. Now, we're going to talk next about competence and training, but I want to take a break before we jump into competence and training and really kind of talk about why I love this tool so much. So when I was a safety manager, we had probably 120-ish employees. And of course, everyone knows you've got at least 30 different safety programs you've got to stay compliant to. And that requires training for different departments, different trainings. Maybe you've got a metallurgical lab or an inspection bay, and that requires a whole other set of certifications to be maintained. And then, of course, as you update procedures, those trainings have to be done. You've got your toolbox talks that you want to keep records of, and it just can sprawl out of control so fast, and you're just ready to pull your hair out. Well, we made it simple, because that's the way these tools need to be. They need to simply be simple. So let's take a look here at competence and training. Again, my absolute favorite tool within the system, only because I know how much of a pain it can be to keep up with this otherwise. Now, it'll take just a minute here for this report to load. This report runs a tool called Power BI. Really, really awesome tool. Let me zoom in here a little bit so that y'all can get a little bit better view. There we go. That's pretty good. All right. So the idea here is who has been trained isn't nearly as important as who needs to be trained. We can identify who has been trained fairly easy. You can just put all the records in a spreadsheet, filter by the name, boom, you know who's been trained. But who hasn't? When the training requirements are different for one department or job title from another, and the intervals change, and then this guy came in midway through our training cycle, so he didn't get 5 of these, but he did get the other 5, and the complexities just never cease to end. So what we're going to do here is we're going to select the department. So I'm going to select here just because it was already there. We're going to take our field support department, and we're going to talk here, instead of crane and rigging, let's talk about maybe hazardous communications. It looks like we don't have anyone overdue on hazardous communications. Let's take a look at fall protection. I see we got someone there that needs fall protection. So talk about fall protection today. All right. So we want to know, have these people had their training, and are they overdue for it? Well, we've got all the information we need here. So we see here that we've got a few employees that have had the training, but man, they are way past the retrain date. We've not done a good job keeping them up to date on their training. We see these other folks, they don't have a date in there at all. That means they've never been trained. So here you go, guys. This is your list of employees for your field support department to train on fall protection today. Well, fantastic. Well, I'm going to train fall protection today, but tomorrow I really think I'm going to talk about our bolting program. Okay, here's your list of attendees for that program. Okay, well, I did that today, and I think we really need to talk about Firewatch. Well, cool. So here's our list of everyone to talk to about Firewatch. And not only that, but then we can even look into the future. We could go up to 150 days in the future and say, who's going to need this soon? And that can go really long ways in helping you develop a well thought out and well conducted training program. Now, I'll tell you a little story. The first time that I went to go do a lot of safety trainings. So I got myself certified as a forklift trainer pretty early after I took over safety. And very next was crane and rigging and so forth. And so as I'm going through the list, I'm like, well, really about half the shop needs trained on crane and rigging. The other half, they had it, 6 months ago, but these guys here, they still need it. I'm just going to train the whole shop. I'm going to do a training for the whole shop on crane and rigging this week. I'm going to do a training for the whole shop on forklift next week. Now, any of you that have done these trainings, you know, the crane and rigging training, we're talking about multiple hours of classroom training, practical, you know, hands-on experience. Same thing for forklifts. You know, you got the classroom training, you have someone load it, rig it, you test them, you make sure that they're all doing it right, and you go through every single employee one at a time to make sure they do it. And I had a real fun come to Jesus meeting with our production manager and operations manager. And he explained some concepts that I knew, but I hadn't thought about at the time. Again, I was kind of young, naive, earlier in the career. And I said, well, look, everyone needs training. How's it hurt to train them extra on safety? We want to keep them safe. And these are hazardous activities. Like, I want to keep everyone trained. And which makes sense until you consider how much these guys make per hour, what their overhead rate is. And if no one in the shop is working, the company ain't making no money. So very quickly realized that the goal is to train people only as frequently as they need and always as frequently as they need. And that was kind of the genesis of the need to develop a tool like this. Now, what it used to be is I would take a weekend every quarter, go through sign-in sheets and spreadsheets and pivot tables and all this mess to come up with who all needed to be trained in the next 3 months, which always got more fun when we did a new hire round and hired 3 or 4 people mid-cycle and it screws up all my paperwork. Well, not now, not an issue at all. So let me show you a little bit about how this tool functions. Like, where does it get the data from? So we'll take a look here. We have a couple of things. We've got our training library. Okay. Our training library includes all of the possible trainings we're going to offer folks, whether it's conducted internally, whether it's conducted externally. We can track all of that. And we can even tie it to a process procedure if that's applicable for your shop as well. We don't have that coded in the demo here, but it's always an option to where you can code this to a specific process procedure. Whoops, clicked the wrong button there on accident, trying to move things around. So let's open up our API bolting. So we see here that this is for our field support and our shop support folks. So if your employee is assigned to one of those departments, they have a requirement for it. We see here the retrain interval. That tells me how frequently do I need to retrain someone. In this instance, with a retrain interval of 0, that means they have to be trained at least once in their tenure in the company. Whereas here we have a retrain interval of 1 for our confined spaces, for our field support folks, so they have to be retrained every year. Same thing here, CPR, first aid, every 2 years. You should kind of get the idea. Within these, we can store additional records. So say you've got a PowerPoint you follow, or maybe you've got instructions on where they need to go to get this training. If it is an outside training, we can put all that information in here in the training library. So that's going to tell us everything about the training, where to do it, what materials we use, and who needs to get it done. Next, we have our competence and training records. So this is one of the newer modules that I say one of the newer modules, one of the more recently updated modules, and it's really, really a lot of fun. So we're going to open up one of these training records here. Let's open up this recent one for Daniel here. Sorry, bear with me. There we go. So what this is going to do is it's going to show us not just that record for that training, but any attachments that we've got for them, any information that we need. Oh, it's saying here, hey, you haven't opened this up before with this account, and I haven't. So it's just saying, do you want to allow permission? So I'm going to say yes, I'm going to allow permission there. All right, as I said, this is a very recently updated module. So what we can do, we identify the employee that's in here. All of the training materials, everything we need is there for them. So let's go ahead and say that we're doing a new class. That'll be a good way to do this. So what are we training on today? Well, I was just talking about forklifts and crane and rigging. So maybe we'll pick that, or, really doesn't matter. So here we go. We're going to do crane and rigging. And let's say that today I trained Curtis, and we trained John, and we trained Rusty, and we trained Gary, and these were the folks that were in my crane and rigging training today. And you would probably pull this off your sign-in sheet, or maybe the test that you had them go through, or their evaluations, whatever the case may be. So we're going to add those folks there. But we need evidence that they did it. So we're going to go get a copy of that sign-in sheet. Now, for now, I'm just going to attach this Word document. It's a sample of one of our procedures. But we can attach all of the evidence we need. Maybe this is scans of their test. Maybe this is pictures of their rigging to show that they did it successfully, whatever the case may be. But we're going to enter in all of those in here. Now, all of these employees will be tied to those records, and we'll hit save. What's going to happen is that in the next 3 hours, when our required training report here updates, it's going to update with evidence that those employees were trained, and they will fall off of this report. Again, it's as simple and easy as we can conceivably make the process. Everything about this is intended to save you time and effort for what matters most in your business. Look at file shares. So here's one of the more fun ones for me. Let's go to our production file share here. And production file share, this is effectively your job folders, right? So we've got a job folder here. Let's go ahead and create a new job folder. All right, so we're going to do a new folder here. And we'll go ahead and give this a name. This is going to be job number 1053. That would be the next one in line there. So we've got job number 1053. And as we all know, when you have a job, you need to pre-populate it with documents. Well, you know, I guess I could come over here and I could go to document control, and I could go to my forms, and, you know, I could download the ones I want and then re-upload them. But yeah, that's a little bit of a pain. You know, if I have to come in here and download these every time, and I'll tell you what's going to happen is folks are going to start trying to keep a local copy of them because it's such a pain to re-upload them into the job folder. We don't worry about that anymore. What we're going to do is we're going to say copy these two, and I'm going to copy those two files over to our new job folder. So what we're going to do here is we are going to copy these to our production file share, and then we are going to drop those here in our job folder. We're going to copy them there. And now I have a copy of the two most up-to-date versions of my document, and we'll refresh the page here. And you'll see that our two files are in here. We never had to download anything. We never had to work offline with nothing. Here we go. We've got our job folders populated with our files. That's really kind of basics of file shares. So we'll move on to the next module here. We're doing a lot with occupational health and safety. It's not rolled out yet. We're still working on it. But for a lot of risk integration, and that's going to be tying into the environmental aspects soon as well. But currently, we've got our accident investigation sheet. Now, this accident investigation sheet is based off of a tool that we've used for years as well when we do accident investigations. And this was a very large, multi-tabbed Excel workbook. It's a functional tool, but we knew it could be made better. So we've got our accident investigation sheet in here. And this accident investigation sheet has everything that we're going to be looking for in an investigation. So give it a second here to get loaded up. And we've got everything from our initial report of the incident, summary of the incident, our manager investigation, supervisor investigation, employee statements, witness statements, attachments, you name it, it's all here. So let me zoom out a little bit just so we can see it better on the screen there. Now we can identify, is this work related? Were there, any lost time? So you can see very quickly how a quick export of this data at the end of the year is going to give you literally everything you need for properly completing your OSHA logs, getting your incident rates, everything that you need and that safety managers use on a very regular basis. We can identify the details of incident summary. When did it start? What was the first day of medical attention? Days of restriction? Literally everything that you could conceivably need for an accident investigation. Who was the person conducting the investigation? When was this reported? Did they receive medical treatment? everything we need right here, nice and simple and easy to use. And because it's integrated with our security manager, you can lock your access to it. The absolute last thing we're going to take a look at today is going to be some of these codes here. So you've probably seen a few of these in a few places. So let's take a look at our work areas. So we've seen work area in our non-conformance reports, corrective action reports, audits, training. It shows up all over the place in the system. Well, all of these are editable. So you can edit and modify these work areas as required. The same thing is true if we're looking at our document categories, some of the filtering and sorting of our document and information. Heck, we've got our employee list in here. This is one thing that I hadn't even told you about yet either, is we do not bill per employee. We bill per active user. So our packages are set up so that you can choose the one that works best for your organization, but you can have an unlimited number of employees. Oh, whoops. I clicked the equipment list there instead of the employee list. You can have as many employees listed in the system as you want, and it's not going to affect your billing, your status, you're nothing on there. All of the employees are logged into the employee list, and these are used when making assigning the dispositions in our NCRs and cars, when assigning training requirements, and each employee is then tagged to a department. It's really the basics of the system. Now, I know we've been going for about 45 minutes here, but 45 minutes, we're able to show you all of the features of the system. How many of you have gone through an ERP implementation or a CRM implementation where, honest to God, you need a 2-week training course? In 45 minutes, we've covered the entirety of the system. This is going to do so much to help you save time and effort on your day-to-day operations. So if you have any questions about TQA Cloud, about what it is it does, what we do with it, let me know. The last piece we're going to look at here is we're going to talk a little bit about some of the pricing options, and I'll show you where that is available on the website. This is something that we have been fervent about from day one, is that we want to be upfront, open, transparent, and honest about pricing on the software. So if you go to texasqa.com, go to services and click on TQA Cloud QMS Software for small business, we're going to have all of that information in here. So we have our starter solution, ideal for, very small businesses up to 10 users. This is the full QMS. We do not limit the features you get. We only limit your storage and number of users. Then we move to our SMB package. This is ideal for small, mid-sized businesses. This is up to 50 users, up to 50 gigs of data. And this includes premium support. So if you need some modifications to some forms, changes in labels, new fields, new data to help better fit and suit your organization, SMB is definitely the option and way to go. The next one we have is what we call our Smb Enterprise. This is for some of our larger clients, and this is up to 150 users. Bear in mind that does not mean 150 employees, 150 users. And this includes, again, the premium support as well, and gets you up to 100 gigs of data. So really, really fantastic option. We do have the option for discounts as well with prepayment. And we have what we're calling our small business bundle here. So let me get that pulled up for you real quick. Give me just a moment here. Sorry, I closed out that PDF just before we started mistakenly. All right, so let's scroll down here to the last page on it. And this is our small business bundle. So what we do here is we are bundling our TQA Cloud QMS software, the SMB package, with our fractional quality management program with the setup and implementation. What we're doing is we're taking half off that setup and implementation. We make this as close to a turnkey process as humanly possible. We're going to upload your supplier records, your non-conformances, your corrective actions, your competence training records. We're going to take all that information and get it in the system for you. We do that in the first month. We're going to give you half off that, and we're going to give you $250 off a month. So we'd be looking at $2,500 up front for that setup and then $24.50 per month for continuing support with the software and fractional quality management. Of course, we do not hold anyone's foot to the fire. So if you're opting for only the QMS software, that is always an option as well. But we do want to make sure you know that we can bundle these together and save you a lot in the process. So that's it, folks. Want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me directly. You can call us at the office at 281-756-7316. You can email me personally, Kyle, Chambers at texasqa.com. As always, find us online at texasqa.com as well. And